Hello, everyone. My name is Soumya. I've been working as a software engineer for 12 years now, and I'm also the founder of CoderBee. And as a part of CoderBee's anniversary, I'm talking to a lot of amazing women in tech in Berlin. Today, we'll be speaking with Teresa. And I met Teresa 6 years ago when she was the head of mobile at Ubi Labs. And today I'm going to just welcome her and let's ask her what was her inspiration, and we listen to her story today. So welcome, Teresa.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm Teresa. Yeah, Soumya and I know each other for 6 years now, I think. And we met actually at Ubi Labs. So I was working as an app developer and I was the head of mobile. And Soumya was just looking for a job and she interviewed with us. And I was lucky to interview her. And ever since, we have met each other at conferences and meetups. Yeah, I'm based in Hamburg, which is not far away from Berlin, where Soumya is living. And every year I go to Berlin to see the DroidCon conference, and we meet there very regularly.
Yes, you have a really cool profile. I think whatever you do is quite inspiring for me and also other women in technology if they get to know you. And just to give us an introduction, you can just start with your education, your background, how you started your ventures, because now Teresa is a techpreneur. She's been working as a co-founder at Small and Modern, and she does also Hamburg Coding School, which has been in existence for 4 or 5 years now, I think. So I'll let Teresa take over and talk about how she achieved all this, please.
How I got into tech. Yeah, from my original upbringing, I'm actually not much of a tech person. I come from a very small town, from a family that is more in, so my family is very musical and artistic. And when I was at school, I actually wanted to become an artist or a designer. At school, we had different branches for the last 2 years or last 3 years. And I chose the musical branch. So that meant we had more arts and music and also some theater play that we did. And I wanted to become a designer. And I applied to many universities for my bachelor studies. And I applied to courses like product design or communication design, things like that. And for every application, I had to make how is it called? A portfolio where I put all my artworks in it, and I sent them in. And I got rejected from all of them. And I got the farthest. I got into the second round in my hometown, actually, at Bauhaus University in Weimar. And after the second round, they told me, we think you're not ready yet. Apply again next year when you're more mature and you have some more art to show. And I thought, okay, what am I going to do in this year? And I said, okay, I'm not going to waste it. I will start already studying at the same university, just a different course, which was called Computer Science and Media. And I started with Computer Science and Media. And it was basically a computer science course. So we learned programming and had a whole bunch of different courses. And I realized I actually like this, and I think I'm actually good at this.
Yeah.
And so after this 1 year, I had a decision to make. Will I apply again as a design student, or will I continue?
Yeah.
And after thinking it through, I thought, okay, these design skills, like learning Photoshop, learning about design, I already know I already know a lot of things about it, and I think I can self-educate myself about it. But these other skills that I learn in computer science, like programming in C++ was one of the first courses that we had.
Yeah.
I thought I can never learn on my own. So I decided, okay, I go with this. And then, if I still want to go into design, I think I can do it even if I have studied computer science. And this is how I got into tech.
Tech is not like a niche field, in my opinion. Anybody can pick up from anywhere at any age and just start to learn to code.
I would say in my studies, I think I really learned to like it. I really learned. I was able to look into many different fields into programming, like databases, like web security, like all these different branches of computer science. And I realized I really like the practical parts, like this application programming part of it. Yeah. And I had many projects with Java, and I realized, well, I really like Java. And I started going into this direction. And because of Java, I went into Android programming because it was made with Java. And I liked it so much that I became an Android programmer at the end. But I had a lot of experiences in my studies at university that were not so nice, I would say. So in Germany, you have this system where studying is basically free, and I think the professors they're paid okay, but they have to show some research and some success in their research that they do, so that they get more funding.
Right.
And because of that, they have this mindset. So for them, the important thing is doing their research. And you can feel that as the student, because you face situations where you feel, okay, the teacher is just reading from his slides and is doing the lectures because they have to, and not because they want to teach us. And I think none of the teachers really get an education in pedagogy, in didactics. And I could really feel that, and I could really, it was disappointing at some points when I was really wanting to learn these things, but I couldn't, and I ended up studying just for the exams to get a good grade, and not really learning the things I wanted to do in the real programmer life afterwards.
Yeah, I think it happens to most of us, right? Like if you have a great teacher or a mentor, you get so inspired. And when you see that people are not interested in teaching you, then you're also losing interest in the subject, though even if it's your favorite subject. I have experienced this as well. When you started your job, you worked on a SAT, something like in CGI space. I saw that something really interesting that I wanted to ask you. How was that experience, and what did you do exactly there?
Yeah, that was my first job after graduating from my master's. That was in Darmstadt at CGI, and CGI is a huge a huge company with offices all over the world, and they mainly do IT consulting. And the office in Darmstadt, they are doing projects for the space industry that is in Darmstadt. So in Darmstadt, you have ESA, the European Space Agency, and you have the satellite operators like EUMETSAT and Eutelsat, who operate the communication and weather satellites that are in the sky. And these need software, and CGI is one of the companies who does the software for them. And yeah, they recruited me basically even before I finished my master degree, and I was like, oh, space industry, this is so cool. I want to do this. So I ended up in Darmstadt and doing projects for ESA and EUMETSAT. That was pretty cool. That was a lot of fun. And that was mainly Java and JavaScript programming.
Yeah.
But I stayed there for only a year because then I got homesick for Hamburg. I did my master's in Hamburg, and I wanted to go back to Hamburg, back to all my friends who stayed there after I left. So I decided to switch jobs and switch back to Hamburg.
Yeah. I mean, it happens to most of us, right? Like if you have a group of friends, you always want to go back there. But let's just talk a little bit about your college experience. Though I'm jumping, I know, a little back, but still, I just want to understand, because you said that you studied also computer science, right? I've heard a lot about Germany and the universities in Germany, that there were not many computer science women grads, for instance. And how was your class, computer science class? How many women were there? Just to understand the gender equality, was it like really big gap, or how was it?
Yes, I think we were about 25 students in my class.
Yeah.
And we were 4 women.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. So it's not like 104 women, it's still okay. But I mean, I'm not saying it's okay, like this number is still a large difference, but I've heard that 1% was like normal in computer science, like 1% women. So that's quite a lot of difference, because I come from Indian industry, and there are a lot of women. At least we were like 30 to 40% women in electronics, computer science fields. Most of the engineering, I would say, mechanical, not that much, but still, I would say it was still better. So
I think it was due to it being a rather small university, and our classes were rather small, and but I think it's also improving ever since. When I studied, we were already, so the numbers of women in this field was already increasing.
Great, thank you for that. So okay, now let's talk a little bit about your Hamburg Coding School and what inspired you to start Hamburg Coding School.
So when I started my second job back in Hamburg, where we met actually, there was a project. We had a project where we needed to rewrite the architecture of an app, and the app needed a lot of the app needed to talk to a lot of different APIs, pull a lot of different data, do something with the data. So we had a whole stream of information in the app itself. So we decided, okay, let's look at this thing called RxJava. And RxJava is a library for doing reactive programming in Java. And this reactive programming is like a whole different programming paradigm than what you would usually do. So we were looking at RX Java and had 1 or 2 weeks and were studying this, doing some tutorials, doing some examples with online resources that we found. And we started implementing this into our app, and it worked quite well. So we had the feeling, okay, we got it working. It does the main things that we wanted to do. But then our employer, they were so kind and invite a consultant who was giving us one afternoon a workshop in RX Java with our code. So in advance, he got the code and had he made basically a whole code review, and then he was showing us how we can use RX Java in our code and how we can improve it. And these couple of hours where he went with us through the code and was showing us this and that, and was showing us whole new features of this actually really big thing, RX Java, that was really like an epiphany moment for me, because I realized, okay, so I knew only so much, and now there's so much, and we went from this to that in a couple of hours, only by having someone on our side who can explain this really well in simple words and is showing this on very practical things. And that was kind of the moment where I realized, okay, having a mentor, having a person in the same room, giving you really good examples, this helps learning a lot. And this is a really crass contrast to the experience that I had at university, right? And that was when the idea of the coding school was born.
Right.
And it took me quite a while to do something with the idea. And at some point later in my career, I switched jobs. I switched to Move, a company called Move in Hamburg as well. And in the new contract, I negotiated that I work only 32 hours, so only 4 days a week, and the Friday I had off. And in this free time on Fridays, I started my own business, and I started Hamburg Coding School. And thanks. I completely bootstrapped this. So in the beginning, I was trying different things. I started with Android workshops, like one afternoon workshops, where we tried out some things. Do we get students for this? Is there demand? And during a period of 2 years, I think, we ended up with a whole different program that we have now, where we teach web development to beginners. So people who have never coded before, they can start with us. It's a 6-month program with evening courses. So anybody who works a job, they can in the evenings attend our classes and still become a web developer if they like.
Yeah, that's really nice. Actually, most of us don't have that kind of time, right? Especially when people are changing careers. These kind of courses are super important, that they can still get that necessary mentorship, support, community, especially to learn with, and as well as they can keep going on with their lives and job and things like that. Nothing should stop. So these days, I think
exactly.
I think there is something called this, from this job center, they can get some Gutschein or something.
We don't offer this because this Bildungsgutschein thing comes with a lot of requirements for the educational organization. So
Yeah.
the courses need to have a certain structure, the classes need to have a certain size and so on. And we wanted to be independent from it so that we can focus on the quality. So we said, okay, we're not going to work with that, but there are other programs. So in Hamburg, there are 2 programs where you can get money for your for the education. You can use that. You can get up to 2,000 euros, I think, in this program.
Cool.
That one is called Bildungsprämie, if I recall it right.
Okay.
And just very recently, we just became partner of Chancen EG, which is a super cool organization that kind of sponsors your education if you can't afford it. But if this education can really, if you can get a really good job afterwards, or any job, then you're a really good candidate for it, because with that program, you start paying back once you got a job, and you pay back a certain percentage of your salary.
That's
you
cool.
can have a look at them. They're called Chancen.
Yeah, I will. It would be great if you send me the link, and I will put the link in the YouTube channels and also share these links, right? So they can, people who are interested can take a look at this. Hamburg Coding School has this installment and finance your own kind of an option. If people cannot pay like in bulk and want to pay in like 3 installments or whatever. So
monthly installments,
Yeah, it's always helpful to have certain options, right? Because there are quite big amounts. So yeah, I think it's great that you have these options as well. And now I just want to talk a little bit more about your freelance experience, because you have been also an entrepreneur for some time now. You can maybe talk about women who want to move to entrepreneurship. And I'm also glad that you actually invited me to join Groots and help you with Android development. So that was amazing experience with Groots as well. So maybe you can talk a little bit about it. I know you sent me also the links to like tax, bureaucracy, and that was very helpful as well. So maybe you can give some tips on, firstly, why you started, and then tips on how somebody like me can go ahead and start their own business.
So when I started the coding school, I did this on the side, right? So I had my Fridays off, and on these Fridays, I was working on the coding school. And quite after a short time, I realized, okay, this one day is not nearly enough to do all the things I have to do if I start a business like that. Because I have marketing, I need to talk to people, I need to teach classes, all these things. It was just not enough time. So I decided I quit my job. And I had 2 friends, a woman, Diana, she is a web developer, and a friend, Omri, he was a freelance Android developer. So Diana, a freelance web developer, Omri, freelance Android developer. And I talked to them and I asked them, is this possible? How is this life as a freelancer? How do you do it? And they helped me quite a bit and made me realize what I have to do. And after talking to them, I realized, hey, wait a second. Diana is Mexican. Omri is from Israel. These 2 people, they're living here in Germany and doing this freelance thing. And I'm a German. If they can go through the bureaucracy, so can I.
It's scary, right?
Okay, I do the jump.
Yeah.
scary in the beginning because it seems quite a lot of things you have to do, or so many options, and you don't want to do the wrong thing. And I got help from them, and I found a tax advisor that was also a huge help because she helped me from the start. And it's actually not so much that you have to do. You need to set up some things in the beginning. So you need to register the business, get the tax number. You need to change your health insurance. This will become more expensive.
Public is for sure more expensive, I would say. The insurance is what is somebody covers, right, as a freelancer, and also the tax advisor. So two important things that for freelance business is required, I think.
Yeah. And the tax advisor will basically take over all the communication between you and the Finanzamt, the tax office.
Very important. very important. You file taxes on time every month to just declare all the VAT, especially because the rest of them you can pay after, like, I think you have 1 year. So just VAT has to be returned immediately. So monthly wise, incoming, outgoing has to be filed. So if that is taken care of, checked off, I think there's so much less bureaucracy, or there's absolutely very little. In fact, if you look at it, it's not that hard for somebody as a developer wants to move to freelance. I think so, because I found opportunities in the communities, women in tech communities, or, you know, in my circles. I didn't have to really go that much outside my circle as of now. So it's still okay for me. That was quite motivational, I think, for anyone who's interested in starting their own business in Germany. You don't have to be afraid and just go for it. I would say it's not that hard, honestly. So
projects, they come as you meet people. So I think I got all my projects through people I know, through former colleagues, through people I know from the Android meetup that I go to regularly, or through Twitter. Twitter is a funny thing. So I think two opportunities I got through Twitter. I just made a tweet. I can do Android programming. I'm a senior Android dev, and I'm looking for a new project. Do you know anyone? And this got shared by my friends, and some way it found its way to companies who needed an Android developer.
That is another thing about power of communities. If you are just shouting out and writing to people in your communities, maybe they know someone, and these communities work so well, I think, especially in Berlin, Hamburg, like German communities especially. I think people are quite supportive. So mostly LinkedIn works, Twitter works. That's where I'm hanging if I have to look for something. So just shout out and ask people in your community. Don't be shy if you're actually looking for work. And people are very happy to help, I think. So use the power of communities to find work. Usually I ask this to most of the people I talk to, and did you find any challenges? Because we'll always learn from our failures, or say pitfalls. So, or even when you face something that it's not entirely your fault, it's somebody else's fault, or, you know, there's a miscommunication happening. So can you think of anything that you thought that, okay, this is a part of IT industry, or this is a part of being a woman, that I'm trying to tackle something that maybe not many women have done? So if you have experiences like that, it would be lovely to hear.
Yeah, so which one do I pick?
Right.
Yeah, many things. I would say, so comparing my two journeys, being a software developer and being an entrepreneur, I would say being an entrepreneur is harder.
Yeah.
Especially for me, because I have two disadvantages. One is I don't have a business background, so I knew nothing about how you write a business plan, how you plan the whole thing, what is required, how you do your finances. I needed to learn that the hard way by reading books, by watching YouTube videos, doing Coursera courses, all this.
Yeah.
And the other hard thing is I'm a woman, and I have the feeling this is even more a disadvantage in the business world than it is in the tech world. In the tech world, you have a really vivid women in tech community, right? Something like what you do.
Yeah.
This is really great, and you have other women who you can share all these experiences with. But in the business world, okay, you also have this community of women founders, female founders. But the problem is what you see if you look at other startups, at comparable startups. And the sad truth is it's usually more men. Okay, the age difference is like in the older companies. Like if I want a partner company for the coding school, I go to the big companies that are in Hamburg or elsewhere, and I talk to white male men who are at least 10 years older than I, who have more experience than I, and who well,
have a
this is very generalizing, but I often have the feeling that they like the feeling that they are more experienced, they are on the safe side, they're the ones with more power, so to say, and they let you feel you. This is very, very small things, like how they look at you, what they say, maybe a certain phrase that they use that you feel okay. I'm just this self-made woman, and I'm probably nothing compared to this. And if you can't do this compartmentalizing in your head, in your mind very well, then you really feel this imposter syndrome that you're not supposed to do this.
Sure, I totally get that. I mean, I can't put myself in your shoes right now, but I totally feel this also in tech. Many times when I had much senior guys, I can resonate to this. That is something that we all deal with, I think, in one way or the other, only because people around us make us feel this way rather than, and the language you use, that is also another thing, that how they talk to you, like talk you down, like in a way, condescendingly, patronizing kind of way, that, oh, you're just a budding whatever, you don't have much experience, but that is not what counts, right? You're a self-made woman and you did this, like in these years, it was a journey for you, and it's everything to happen in their own timeline, I think, and for your age and everything, it's really commendable that at this age you have gone for it and you started your own company, and you're also registering and doing all the bureaucracy. I see that. It's quite inspiring also for me. So yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing your experiences with regard to this. If something could have been changed, or say if you had that power to change things for other people, now that you are actually a founder, you do have employees. So Teresa has her company and she has some employees now. So what do you do in your company that would reflect that there is no bias and everybody feels good, everyone feels safe, And also for women who have to learn that you have to stop listening to the noise, just ignore the noise, right? Like go for what you want to do, ignore what other people tell you, just focus on the goals, right? So this you do very well, I feel, you're so focused.
Thank you.
So yeah, maybe you can also talk about that a little bit. Like, how do you create that environment?
Yeah, so one thing is really important to me when it comes to my companies, and that is that me and my employees and the freelancers we are working with, like everyone we're working with, the whole team, that everyone is looking each other eye to eye, that it's the same level, and it's not like I'm the boss, I tell you what to do, but it's more like I also want to understand where you're coming from. I also want to see your views, because I have only this perspective, but I need to see the whole story, right? So I'm at the coding school. I'm doing this in a quarterly cycle that I do one-on-one meetings with my employees and with the freelancers. And it's not supposed to be like a Mitarbeitergespräch, like this one-on-one, how's it called in English? The
feedback or something? I'm not sure what.
Yeah, you usually have like one meeting where the boss is evaluating the employee.
Okay, yeah.
So it's not like this, right? I want to be it rather a meeting where I get to understand the other person, and the one most important question that I asked in this meeting is, what am I missing? Mm-hmm. What is it that me as the leader of the whole thing am not seeing? Because we all have our blind spots, right? And it's really important to me that one, to communicate the openness, that everyone can approach me if they feel we need to change something, and also that I really know what's going on, and also get to see the problems that I wouldn't see otherwise if other people wouldn't tell me. That's one thing that I'm doing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think these companies I worked with had one-on-ones with managers where it was so casual. It's not like you have to like call people in a chamber or cabin and be like, okay, secretly, now tell me, give me a feedback, right? It's not like that. It's more of like, okay, get a coffee, sit on a couch and talk about, so how can I do better? Or like you said, are you happy with what is going on? How would you change it? People are experts in their area, and they can give so much of advice, I think, especially in the companies themselves.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that is really cool what you do. I think I also suggest some people when they ask me, how can we be more inclusive? So this is another question I get a lot, like how to be more inclusive for gender, for age, for backgrounds, for accessibility people. So like, is there something that you do specially to improve inclusivity? Or you just like make a standard, like, so we follow these things, whoever it is. So that could be another option, right? So you don't have to make special effort, but you could be like, this is standard for whoever comes. But sometimes you would have to be specially caring about certain people, like say some people are not coming from Germany, they might have special needs or integration needs. So when I came here and joined, I didn't have any integration. So I didn't know, like I had to learn from finance to bureaucracy to banking to everything by myself, asking in the communities. So how do you deal with employees having problems, or how would you be more inclusive?
That's a tough question, actually. I know this from previous companies that this inclusion can be a problem. I know it from both sides. So we had one experience where we had a new employee from Egypt, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
It just didn't fit. And the other example that I had was when we were in a rather big team, and I was one of the few women, and we had many of these meetings where we were, let's say, 10 people in the room, and there was me and another woman. Yeah. And I had really difficulties speaking. So yeah, it wasn't that I couldn't, but it was rather that there were a number of men who really wanted to say something, and they said it in a very loud voice, and they talked a lot, and I just couldn't make myself heard in that environment. There was one other negative experience. And for my own companies, it's a little bit different because the companies are really small. In the software company that I run, we are 4 people. In the coding school, the core team, we are also 4 people. So the groups are rather small, and that makes communication much, much easier, right? But I remember one instance, for example, where we had a problem, or I personally had a problem where I had the feeling that one of the teachers who wasn't from Germany was avoiding me.
Yeah, okay.
And I was talking to a colleague where I was freelancing who was from the same country. And I asked him, I have the feeling this person is avoiding me and is not really replying, but like for a couple of weeks, we were supposed to meet and we keep postponing it. And I have the feeling there's a problem, but this person won't talk to me. Do you think there's a problem, or is it just he's a bit flaky? Yeah. And he said, he told me, no, in our culture, I think there's a problem. You should talk.
Yeah, okay.
And he told me to not address it directly, but to ask about what we can improve or something like that. I got an advice like that. And that was when I learned, okay, there's a cultural difference. You know, we Germans, we are very direct. If there's something that that bothers us, we tell it to the other person, and we want to solve it, and we want to address it rather than avoiding the other person.
Totally agree.
There was a difficult moment for me where I had to learn that in other cultures they do it differently.
Yeah. I totally also felt this way when I moved here, right? I was working with a group of 6 men, and like basically one guy joined who was also from Bangalore, where I come from. So we both joined almost at the same time. At least I had, he had the same feeling, right? Because he was also for the first time here, and 5 European men you're working with, and, you know, people are so confident. European guys are so confident in putting things, you know, like, and saying things like how they feel. But we Indians, I think, culturally, we are very diplomatic in the way we say things, and we keep quiet at times when we don't want to say like something that would cause conflicts, for instance. This is very cultural. So I do appreciate that honesty, you know, to be on the face, but I also feel like, you know, it should be put in a way that it should be like people should take action, and it should not feel like it's a negative feedback, but a constructive feedback and something they could work upon and things like that. So it was a bit hard for me because it was like on my face negative feedback, and some language was even very unacceptable. And there was this one person used this phrase like, you know, he was like, oh no, she's joking, like, in a meeting where I was trying to put out my ideas, and, maybe it was wrong, maybe
Wow.
it was, so it was very direct, like, just leave it alone, like she's joking, and like dismissed me like that. So I felt so like next time onwards, I was not even saying anything in meetings. So this was another thing, like until I left that place, and I had to like rebuild my confidence, because in meetings I would not say things because I was afraid of, the fear of being condemned or rejection kind of thing. Yeah, the way people say things should be like, I do think it should be well thought, and it shouldn't be like because you have an outburst. I think it's always a way to put it, and it's find a time and do it casually and give constructive feedback, right? Like something you can work upon, not that, oh, you're a bad person or your personality has some flaws. Like, so I think it's crucial to get also advice from, like how you said, an example is to just ask people around, like, how do you deal with certain problems, or ask HR, how do I give good feedback to my colleague, for instance. So having this open culture, feedback culture, like I think is great, especially I think your company, you have that one-on-one feedback culture. That is amazing. That whenever I also felt, safe when managers asked me, so how are you doing? That's a great question already. Then you start talking everything that did not go well. It's like a retrospective, but one-on-one, and you can also rant if you like. So yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's great. Yeah, thank you for sharing that experience with all of us. So just because you have coding school, you learned a lot. And I also think that when I spoke to you and when I attend meetups and you give talks about how to teach, so that's another area that I think you could add value if somebody is watching. And I think everybody should teach, right? Even if you're a junior, I think beginners can teach well. Then, like in your talk, you also talked about this. Beginners can teach well than like really experienced, because you already have forgotten that journey, and you can be more relatable to someone. So would be great to listen from you that what is your advice to people about mentorship, about teaching? What are the things that people should keep in mind? And I think everybody should just teach anyone who's asking or they know, for instance.
Yeah, that's very true. And what you just said is definitely true. So people who are not experienced experts, who just learn the thing themselves, they most often make the better teacher than the expert would be. And the reason is we go through certain steps in our level of experience, right? So if you learn a new thing, you go from not knowing what you know to, okay, now I know what I don't know. From there, you go to, okay, now I know a few things that I didn't know before, but there are also like things I know I don't know, and so on. And the highest level is basically where you know all these things, but it's very unconscious. So for example, if you learn how to drive a car, the first driving lessons that you do, everything is very conscious. The teacher needs to tell you every pedal you need to press, what moment, and every little thing you have to do. But once you got your license and you have been driving your car for a couple of years, you can even speak on the phone while driving. It comes so easy to you because this this knowledge of knowing how to drive is gotten very unconscious. But in teaching, having this unconscious knowledge of something is actually not helpful, because you have this gap, right, between the student who has 1,000 questions and doesn't know anything, and you have the teacher, and the teacher knows so many things, that is an expert in so many things, but they don't realize it. And this is called the expert blind spot.
Right, yes.
And if you want to teach someone and you're already good in what you do, you will always have this expert blind spot. And it's actually a skill as the teacher to go one step back and become conscious again of all the things you need to do in order to do the task. For example, I teach a databases course. And when I teach this databases course, for me, it comes very easy to just query the database for a certain thing that I want to know. For example, in this movie database, show me all the movies that are starring Brent Spiner. It comes easy to me to make that query. But for the student, you really need to break it down, and you really need to go a step back. And if you prepare for teaching what you teach, you solve the task first yourself, and then you try to observe yourself and all the small steps you do. You try to break it down, and then try to break it down even more. So for my course, I would come up with steps that would be like, the first step is you just browse the data set and familiarize yourself with the data set. The second step is you identify the field or the column that you want to search for. And the third step is you identify the query that you want to build, the operator that you need. And for that, there's two things you can do. One is you can read the documentation. The other thing is you can use Google and Stack Overflow. And the last step is you try it out and see with trial and error if your query is correct. So this breaking it down into small steps, this is actually very important, and this can improve the teaching a lot and help you as the teacher to get into the shoes of your students, so to say.
Yeah, I agree. I think so too. Like even as a developer, I think we also talked about this in one of my previous interviews, that as a developer also, the first thing to do is to like break down any task at hand to like the simplest that you can break it down to, right? So then you can tackle that really simple statement in whatever amount of code you want, but still break it down to a level that you cannot break it down anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think this in general for coding also works, I think. Like teaching coding, especially, I think this works quite well. So yeah, cool. My next question, and I think we're almost at the end of the interview, but this is very important to know, I think, for all of us, that I know you read a lot, and I've seen your journey from being a developer to being an entrepreneur, and you do a lot of things, and your profile kind of expanded, and you do much more than I can do, for instance, right? You have to schedule things, and you're very, I think, focused, and you manage things well, you're organized. So like, just tell me, like, what motivated you, or do you have anything, which books do you read? do you have any tips for people who want to do more, who want to achieve more than what they are currently already doing?
Yes, so in my journey, well, I've read a lot of books. I read a lot of books. I try to, in my life in general, I try to bring my life into a routine where I don't need to think about the steps anymore. And I try to go for a run every morning. And while I run, I got these AirPods and I listen to audiobooks. And then usually at some point when I listen to an audiobook, I also buy the physical copy so that I can look up things that I just heard about. And one of the books that really had a big impact for me to organize my life and to become better in any area is this one, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is really doing this routine thing and doing exercise is actually some of the things that I got out of this book, because it's so an important part of life. And this book is, they're not addressing a certain target group. They're basically for everyone who wants to be more effective, more successful in life. And the 7 habits include things like be proactive with everything, always try to understand the other person first before you want to be understood. It's just like wisdoms that I feel children should learn in primary school, right? Really important things about how you talk to each other.
Yeah,
that one.
Sounds great. I think I'm going to add this on my Goodreads, and I also follow you on Goodreads, right? You also a lot of good books about teaching and mentorship. I find this also quite interesting because we have this misconception that teaching is like easy or like anybody can do this, but it's not actually.
I can recommend you 2 books. Wait a second. I gotta bring them here.
Sure.
So this one, gonna show you the title. It's called How Learning Works, and it's actually for college teachers. But it has really a lot of really nice examples, and it's basically breaking down science. So they use the science of learning and teaching and breaking it down into 7 principles that you can use in really practical situations. So they come up with really practical tips. And the other book that I like is called Telling Ain't Training. And this is how it is, right? You can't just tell someone to do a certain thing and then they know it, but there's much more to it that you need to do to be teaching.
For sure. I'm definitely going to check it out. And just one last thing that I always ask everyone, I think after the interview is complete, and I just want to ask you, what is that one advice you would give to a coder, say even newbie coder who wants to start, or somebody who's already started and want to continue development in their lives? What is that one advice that you would give, and what you learned maybe would be helpful for others?
Yeah, so my advice would be avoid the rabbit hole at all costs. So don't go too far down the rabbit hole wherever it leads you. Maybe coding, maybe starting your own business. It's much more important that the task gets done, that the problem is solved, that there's a result at the end. It doesn't need to be perfect. Done is better than perfect, and the rabbit hole is the enemy of done.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, actually. That's one of the natural tendencies as a developer. You have this tendency to perfect things. Like, code is working, but you want the architecture to be perfect, to be 100% tested, to be like ironclad, right? So you don't have to be Iron Woman or Iron Man, whatever you are, Iron person. So just whatever minimal is required to just get the stuff done, and results are more important, to get somewhere, to push the code, to already see how users are liking it or using it, then you can always go back and learn from mistakes. And I have done this as well, like get lost in the rabbit hole, and the whole day I would be debugging this problem without asking for help. It happens to all of us. I agree. Cool. Thank you very much, Teresa. I loved this chat with you, and it was so amazing that you could make time to come and share this with us. So, yeah, I'm going to.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to leave the users with, if they want to connect with you for Hamburg Coding School, if they want to learn with you, or even to just keep in touch. And also with the links you said you would share, I'm going to put everything in the description when I share this video, so it will be helpful for someone at least. So thank you very much for making this time for me, and have a great evening.
Thank you. You too.